Exercise 6, SolidWorks 2019. In this exercise, our goal is to create what you see up on the screen currently. It's a two-dimensional layout drawing of a part. The part's already built for us. It's just a matter of downloading it and bringing it up. So let's go ahead and begin. But first of all, you can see that we're going to create a front view, a top view, a section view, a detail view, an auxiliary view, and a right view and an isometric view. And then we're also going to explore how to put the dimensions and annotations on. To start off with, inside your browser, go ahead and go to vertanu1.com. You can see here, vertanux1.com. And when you get here, you're going to go to part files. Now, by the way, if you want, this instructional manual is under instructional manuals and it'll be under SolidWorks Basics. And you could go ahead and click on that. Currently, I'm using the 2017 version. I do need to update that to the latest version, 2019, but it's not a whole heck of a lot different. So you could go ahead and use that until I get 2019 up. But once you are up here, you'll see that there's the actual part files. Click on part files. And all SolidWorks are in the red column here. And you're going to find the exercise 6 part and click on it. And then hit download, or you could hit it up here as well. When it downloads, you'll see it come up in the lower left corner. I'm using Google Chrome. Go ahead and click on the exercise 6, and it should launch it inside SolidWorks. And the part should look as follows. Now you might see up at the very top, it says it's an older version. So we just need to update that. So you can just hit save, or you could save it to your desktop, whatever you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and just hit save. I'm going to save it into my downloads directory. And it's going to prompt you that it's an older version. Is it okay to save this? Yes. Now what we're going to do from here is make sure that you can see your pull down menus. And the way you could do that is normally you'll see this little arrow, and tack that in, and go to insert, go to file, make drawing from part. Now there's several ways you could do this. This is just one of my favorite ways. There's some advantages to doing it this way. Otherwise you could just, there's a couple different ways you could do it actually. So let's go ahead and click on that. And it takes our part, and then it prompts us for sheet format and size. You can see I have the A and C landscapes. If you scroll down, if you don't want to see those, you could turn those off, only standards, and you'll see ISO, DAN, JAS, so on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and I just want to work with the ANSI, American National Standard. And we're going to go with the ANSI landscape. Go ahead and hit open. By the way, you could choose without a format too. But go ahead and hit OK. Now, when we use that technique by going to File and Make Drawing from Part, we see the view palette appears on the right hand side, which this is what I really like. Up at the very top you can see the part file that it's picking from. If there's some additional parts, they would be listed there, and you could hit regenerate, select it, regenerate, or you could even browse for them or cancel out. There's a number of options here. We're going to ignore those for right now, but if you go down here, here's your views. Now if you don't see this again, you might have to go to browse and find the actual part file. But let's go ahead and grab with the mouse button. So that's your left mouse button. Now you're going to depress it and hold it and drag the front view right into the screen into the lower left corner, right about where mine is. Remember, you're going to have to make a lot of space here, so release it. And now we're not quite done yet. If you move your pointer directly across, you'll see it starts to unfold additional views. Don't worry about that. Don't hit escape just yet. Before we go and do that, you can see that there's some options here. There's configuration options, which configurations we don't get into until the advanced classes. But you could see here, you could have the display style. You could go with hidden lines, visible, hidden lines removed is the default on mine. They're shaded, although shaded really isn't acceptable in industry just yet for all those views. You might want to, it might be a little ahead of the curve. But I would prefer to go with hidden lines removed. And over here you can see the scale. You could adjust the scale individually or as the entire sheet, which I'll show you shortly. But this will allow you to change that particular scale of that view. We're not going to use that just yet. And then there's some additional options we're not going to take a look at just yet. But let's go ahead and move this pointer over here directly above this, and you'll see we could click and release to drop that view there. Now move your pointer to the right and get it way over here and click to bring up a right view. Now you could even drag off the isometric view, and that's fine too. Go ahead and click once, and now if you hit your right mouse button or hit escape, it applies, and now they're there. Now to move these views, like for example the isometric view, this one's the easiest one because you just grab the edge of it with the tip of your pointer and your mouse button and drag it, holding that mouse button down until you get it where you like it. Now when you click on a view like that view, notice it's still selected. You'll see little dashed entities around the edge. That means anything over here to the left will only affect that view. So we could go ahead and click on Shaded with Edges for that particular view if you want. You could change the scale for that particular view. So it's really just exclusive. Now, let's go ahead and try and move one of these views. Click on the edge here and drag it with your mouse button depressed. You'll see that this moves only in alignment with that front view, as well as this one does too. By right-clicking, you can break the alignment if that's what you wish, but it's actually good to just keep it this way. Another thing, you might notice that these edges, we know we could change it to shaded, and we could, but there's this tangent edge display. And when I used to work in industry and we'd send out a drawing, if we didn't dash these edges or change them with a font, sometimes the people out in the shop would ask, like, is that a specific feature? It looks like it's a fillet, but we're not sure. So to save some time, as a courtesy, we would just simply, you could right-click in one of those views or hold Control and select multiple views and then right-click, and you'll see Tangent Edge and select the checkbox with font. Now you could remove them as well, and sometimes there are instances where that's applicable, but not right now. Go ahead and select that. And now you could see I'm zooming up with my scroll wheel, so just pointing over where I want to zoom to, and I'm scrolling my wheel. And you can see it, you can zoom up, and it dashes the edges. So it adds a font that is unmistakable if you use it over and over again. So it's a nice courtesy, not required though. If you want, Control select these two views. You can't do it to the shaded view, but just select these two and then right-click and Tangent Edge with font. All right. Now, hit F on your keyboard for Zoom to Fit. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and maybe scale these down a little bit. We could see the scale is like right here. It says it's a half scale on the sheet. Not all drawing sheets have this intelligence built into them. These are the SolidWorks sheets. So if you imported a sheet from an old CAD system, remember that might not be accurate. What is accurate is down below here. You'll see right here the scale. If you click on that, you could just change the scale. Like if I want to, I could go to 1/5, and they all update. You go ahead and click on that again, and let's go with, instead of these ones, let's say we wanted to go with, normally you wouldn't go with 1/3, but you don't see it on here. So you have the ability, though, to change that by going to Sheet Properties. And right here we see the scale. Change that instead of 1/5 there, change it to 1/3. Now remember, you wouldn't necessarily want to do 1/3 all the time, but I'm just using this as an example to show you how to customize. All right, also the type of projection. Third angle is what we use here in the United States. If you're in another country, perhaps maybe Britain, you might actually choose first angle, which flips the way your parts are unfolded. What in America here we see would be a top view unfolded from the front. You would see the bottom view. So it depends on which projection you want to use there. Here we're going to stick with third angle. You could also change the sheet size. If you were unhappy with the sheet size and you wanted to enlarge it instead of scaling, you could actually select that right now and hit Apply Changes, and it would put it onto a new sheet. We're going to keep it on an A size, and that's just simply so we can do this. And now, unfortunately, I didn't go in there properly. I'm going to hit Sheet Properties, change it to 1/3. I meant to hit Apply Changes. There we go. And now we see everything comfortably fits on this sheet. Let's move this down, this view right here. Now, let's go to View Layout and take a look at some of the options we have up in View Layout. You have the standard 3 view. We actually initiated that when we chose to go to File, Make Drawing from Part. It automatically did that for us. So just be aware, if you wanted to go to the route where you just start an ordinary part file, start a new drawing and go right there, and it will automatically drop in front, top, and right views. Model View gives you, if we click on that, you'll see that it actually enables you to select the part file, and then you could go ahead and select from the front, top, right, left, isometric, trimetric, dimetric, and drop that specific view in. You could even create new views and save them. Not necessarily from here, but from the actual solid view. Anyway, I'm going to cancel out of there, so just be aware what that's all about. Projection view is essentially, we did that too. We saw that behavior when we dropped the very front view in, and then we unfolded 2 additional views. If I were to go to project view, I could click on this and it would unfold a bottom view. So you have that ability to use projection. But let's go along here. Let's go with auxiliary view. Go ahead and select auxiliary view and zoom up here to this front view that we had. Move your pointer to this front edge of the flange, and this is what auxiliary views are for. Things like this that would normally come up. If you look here at that top view, we can't represent it properly. It's an ellipse. But if we wanted to see that flange in a full circle, we could do this way. Click on that edge, and it instantly pops out a view directly parallel to it, to the screen. So go ahead and click to release that right about there. And now you can see it's a perfect circle. It's actually looking at it. It unfolds it from there. You do have the ability to shrink this down. SolidWorks is very good about sticking with the ANSI standards, but you might have limited real estate on your drawing. You might want to change that and make it smaller. If by any chance you're getting just one little arrow, that would indicate you're on the ISO standard. And this is a good time to discuss that. I'm going to hit the green check mark on this view here. If we go to the gear up at the top and we go to document properties, this is just for this specific document now that we have open, this one drawing. We're in ANSI, and this is where you would change it. So by default, some countries are using the ISO, which is the international standard. We're using currently here the ANSI standard. But you can see there's all the different standards, and they will have their own nuances about them. So just be aware, it's going to look a little different if you don't have it set up the same way. All right, now that we have that, let's zoom up to this view right here. Let's say we want to make a section view through there. So let's go to section view up here. Select the view, actually hit escape for a moment. It's very important in many cases actually to make sure you pre-select the view, because if you don't have the view pre-selected, you might have a different view selected, and then when you go to section view, even though it looks like you're dropping the section view arrows inside this view, another view is selected, and that's where it's taking it from. So be aware, it's not a bad idea. You could click once. You can even double click and you get this corner border. Either one is fine. That really locks it in. Go to section view now, and then this way we know we're locked in. But look at this, our arrows are vertical. Let's change that. Over here on the left, you have the ability to go with horizontal. Notice there's some additional advanced ones aligned and auxiliary, but let's go with horizontal and get to the dead center of that and click to release it and hit the green check, and now move your pointer up and click to drop it up there. Now, again, SolidWorks sticks with the ANSI standard when you select ANSI standard, and some shops that I've worked in really preferred to have this more of an unfolded view as though it was upside down. You have the option with this little arrow line here, just double click on it, or you could flip the direction button. Either one will reverse the arrowheads, but now you might not see this update. Instead, you might get this strange cross-hatching. Whenever you get that cross-hatching, that means a change was made, but the update hasn't been performed yet. So we have to perform that update, and it's just this. Hit the little stoplight up there, rebuild, and it will flip it, and the cross-hatching disappears. Be aware that cross-hatching, if you don't update your views, will show up on a drawing when you print it to let you know that it's out of date. So make sure you rebuild after this. Hit the green check on the section view. Now let's zoom up here, and you can see the crosshatching that's occurring here. Go ahead and select one of the little lines of the crosshatch. And once you do that, on the left-hand side, you'll see you can turn off material crosshatch and select from a whole library of different crosshatch patterns. Like I'm going to go with steel, and over here the scale, increase the scale just by bumping it up, and you could see the pattern change and update. You could even change the angle of the pattern. And you can make it solid if you want it. And you could apply it to the component, that specific region that we had selected, the entire view, or just a specific body if there's multiple bodies in here. Hit the green check to apply. All right, now let's make a detail view. I'm going to zoom out a little bit with my wheel. I'm going to go to select this view in advance just to be on the safe side. Go to detail view, and now move your pointer in this region here. Now be careful. Notice how I get the little yellow boxes that appear sometimes. Those are relationships that are forming. And once they're locked into a relationship, it's not very easy to move them. So I would recommend trying to get like either a white box, which means it's not locking in, it's just snapping. Click and drag out this circle to make an envelope around that region. Click again and drag out your detail view. Now notice on the left, the detail view, there's options for this. So you could go with per standard with a broken circle. You could go with leader, and you're able to drag this out like that. You can select with no leader or connected. Choose whichever one you prefer. There's some additional options here I'm not going to go into right now, but click and then click somewhere on the screen to release it. This is an intelligent note, by the way. If you double click on that, you change it to 1:1, it will actually update. Oops, actually I haven't done it in a while, so let's see if it still does. And it does. The other way to do that is to click on that specific view or double click on it. Brings up the detail view options, and you would be able to scale it or make adjustments here by changing the scale. Okay, so we've seen how to bring in a front, top, right, auxiliary, section view, detail view, and we have an isometric. Now, those of you who design pipes or very long objects and need to truncate them, this isn't the best example, but you can do this. Like if, let's imagine this was a flagpole and we wanted to truncate it so it could fit on a drawing, because obviously something that long is not going to fit easily on here. That's what these tools are for. So like we have break view, select that, select the view you want to drop it in, and put in the break lines, and anything in between those break lines is going to disappear and it's going to truncate it. So click here, and there you can see what it's just done. And over here there are some options for the gap size, so you could squeeze it together, so on and so forth. You could change it to vertical, horizontal. There's break styles, zigzag, small zigzag, and you can have fun with that. I'm going to cancel out, but just be aware you have the options there to tinker with that. And if you need to change it, you could actually click on the break line and hit delete on your keyboard, and it will just delete the break line, returning your view to normal. Crop view. Let's take a look at that. Let's say we wanted to crop out this geometry around this flange. So what you can do is you go, first of all, double click on the view so you get the border to highlight. And I had to do it a couple times to get it. But basically you see the little solid mark on the corners. Now go to sketch, and you can sketch in any view you like. And I'm going to go with the spline just to make it a little on the sloppy side so you can see this, how this works. And then connect. Now with that selected, go to view layout, go to crop view, and it will crop out geometry. And remember, you could just use a circle for it. I just use this just to show you what you can do. All right, double click anywhere away from the other views, and we have all of our views that I wanted to show you. Now there is alternate position view for assemblies and things like that, but that's more advanced. We're not going to cover that just yet. Let's move on to detailing. First of all, might be driving some of you up a wall here, and we might want to fix that. So to fix that, right-click and edit sheet format. What SolidWorks has on their drawings or their templates is they actually have these automatic naming conventions. So there's like a little code in there that knows to pull from the part file and automatically drop the name in this case, I had a very long name. It didn't fit well in the box. I could double-click on it, and I could do two things. I could delete it, type in something else, or I could have it as an intelligent note, as it is, or what they call parametric note to some extent, and just change the font size to something that fits better. You could also change the colors. You could make it bold, italicized, and even the font. And then click off of it and hit escape. And anytime you move your pointer over something, you see something like that appear, that's another one of those little dialog boxes that will pick up information from the drawing. But that's from the part. That's an advanced feature we're not going to go into in this intro class. Okay, now I'm going to move that. Now you could also go in here, make changes to these notes by double-clicking on them. You could change colors here by clicking on these. By the way, to change colors of lines and text, right mouse button click, like hover your mouse over, or your pointer over this gray area here, right click, and I want you all to find line format. Line format, click on it. It comes up in the lower left corner down below here, and you have layer options, which we don't get into again until the advanced class, exercise 12. And then we have line colors, line thicknesses, styles, and so on. So let's say we want to change like a line color. So select this line here, and now go over here. You can have line font. You could thicken it. You have line color. While it's still selected, you could select a different color. So say I went with dark green and hit OK. And line style, you could go ahead and change it to dashed and click. And now we have modified that. Now, it will not remember this unless you save this template as a template, so don't worry about it. We're just making changes for this specific document. It's not actually altering this template for future. Now, to get out of this, there's a couple ways. You could click up here. This is the easiest, probably. You could right-click here and go to Edit Sheet, or you could right-click on Sheet 1 and go to Edit Sheet there too. So there's three options I just gave you. Now once you do that, look at that. So we've had that line updated. We see our text has changed. And so there's a little bit of alterations. There's the sheet and the sheet format. And that's in the training guide actually. If you go and you look at this lesson, I describe what exactly that is. And it's kind of like editing the sheet and sheet format. The sheet's kind of like an imaginary sheet of glass, you might say. It could contain dimensions, notes, as well as your drawing views. The sheet format is that underlying layer which contains the information that you have on your title block. And so you have to remove the sheet to edit the sheet format, then you have to right-click again, edit sheet to bring it back. And that's on page 70 of the book. All right, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and add some dimensions now. Now, detailing, go to the Annotations tab, and you'll see Smart Dimension. Now, if you hit the little arrow under Smart Dimension, you have many ways you could add. There's even ordinate dimensions, chamfer dimensions, path dimensions, and things like that. We're going to start off with just Smart Dimensions, and we're not going to do a whole lot here, but let's say we go over here, and we want a dimension that references from this edge to this edge here. And you're just clicking on points or edges, whatever you could get your hands on. Click to release it, and that dimension is done. Now you have the ability to click on here and flip the arrowheads by clicking on the dots. You could adjust the leader lengths and flip these the direction by just clicking on that, or even dragging this down. Also, some other entities here, you could grab these little boxes and drag them out a little bit so they're not touching. If they are, depends on what you dimension to and from. Okay, notice that's a light gray color because that's a reference dimension. Its value cannot be changed. If we double click on it, we can't change it. We could add notes to it and such, but we can't change it. If here's the other alternative. Now, I'm not going to go through how to add dimensions like that because a lot of people do, and you will have to add dimensions like that in many cases. And it will print out, by the way, if you set your printout to be grayscale or color and it comes out in gray, it's going to print out light gray. But you could set it when you go to your print settings, just black and white, and that will negate that gray color for references. But let's go with model items instead. I want to show you this. This is really nice. Now, as I've talked about from day one with my other exercises, E1 through E4, I always recommend when you add dimensions that you lay them out how you'd like to see them on the drawing. And here's why, or at least this is one of the reasons why. You can see over here when we clicked on model items, this is to retrieve your dimensions that you put into the model. It can save time, and these dimensions can be changed, which can be a good thing, and maybe not such a good thing. Depends upon if you have a group of people who just specifically work on the detailing end. You and they might not want to accidentally double click on something and change it, so you could lock that so that doesn't occur in the settings inside SolidWorks. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and put in selected feature. Note you can have the entire model selected and everything will drop in. Now remember, that's a cluster of dimensions. It's like a cloud in some cases, so be careful what you wish for. I prefer to do it by selected feature, and notice there's different feature dimensions you can drop in, not marked or marked for drawing, whole locations, callouts, things like that. There's also annotations like notes, surface finish symbols, datums, GD&T. Those things can be added to the 3D model by the designer and later called up in the drawing automatically. You would have to check these options though. Let's go ahead and select the actual surface of this bell housing right here. And you'll see the dimensions will propagate in. These are how they were laid out. It was obvious this was done in this view. It was probably a revolve, as we've seen with exercises 2 and 4, and it's laid out this way. So what we can do, a couple different things. You could actually just hit the green check mark if this is enough for right now, and it might be too big for this size drawing sheet. So again, we could go to the options menu at the top, and you could go to, let's go to drawing document properties, go to dimensions, and go to font. And now you could actually change the font here. Just taking a moment to access this. And you could go with units, so we could set it to 0.062. We're in the States here, and get rid of that extra decimal, sorry. Or you could go with points just like you would with like a Word document. Hit OK, and hit OK, and now they're all going to be smaller, easier to manage. Okay, some of these drawings also, I should say these dimensions, look at this, we could double click on it, and this is where you got to be careful. If you double click, this value can be changed. If you change it here, it's going to update the actual models, the assemblies it's tied to, so be very careful. I'm going to just cancel out of that. I'm not going to update that. Notice as soon as I hit the green check mark, even though a change wasn't implemented, it still has the rebuild requirement. So hit rebuild, because we see the cross-hatching that appeared there. Okay, some of these other dimensions would better be suited up in this view. So here's the trick on how to get them over there. Now, if you want a copy of them, which is big no-no, you could control and drag. Otherwise, the shift and drag will allow you to drag it to the center, release the mouse button, and now that dimension is comfortably put inside that view. Now here you could see this is actually giving me a width. We actually want a diameter, which has the symbol there, but we could go to display options, and we could go ahead and display as diameter. And we could do a group of these, by the way, and drag them out, and there we go. So we were able to actually move dimensions from one to another, holding the Shift key. Now I'm going to hit Escape. Now I'm going to go ahead and I want these two to be up top. So I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to Control, select those two. Release Control, then hold Shift, and then drag with your mouse button depressed and drag them to the center. Don't drag them where you want them. Drag them to the center of the view. Release, and now those come in there. Now click somewhere off or hit Escape. And now you can move this over here and the 17 degrees. Let's move that up here. Now, we might want a center line or center mark in there. You can do that too. Center marks or center lines, you click on center line, and you can select the edges, and you get your center line. Now, be careful, that one's a little off because of the view. I'm going to actually hit undo. Oops. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and go back there, center line. I want this internal edge to this edge here, and we get our little center line. Now I could click on this, grab the little square, drag it down a little bit, get it close. Now, what if you want the centerline note in there, CL? What you can do for that is you could actually click off of that, go to the note tool, and over here on the left you'll see us add symbol, CL, and look at all those symbols. Just go with centerline and just click, stay away from touching anything, hit the green check. Again, if you want, you can make this smaller and then hit this. Oh, I forgot, I should have clicked off of it. Let me do that again. CL, just drop it right there. Click again off of it and hit escape. And if you want, you could edit it by clicking on it or double clicking. We'll just leave it as is. All right, now let's zoom out there. It's a little big, but that's okay. We'll move things around. Just grab this view, drag it up. Now let's take a look at some other instances. Like, look at this. This doesn't look quite right. Now if I drag this out, we drag these over. We're getting a little squeezed for space here. First of all, let's rotate these. You can actually select these two views. Over here, go to Leaders, and at the very bottom, Custom Text Position, and select this third option right here, and it will rotate them. Hit the green check, click on this one, and hit the little arrowhead circle there to drop it in. We've made some extra space here. Now you could drag this over here. You could click on that to reverse it. A lot of neat little options to make more additional space for you. If you get this too close, it might reset itself, so just be aware you want to make some room. Okay, now let's say we don't want some of these dimensions in here. Rather than moving them, let's say we want to hide or show. You can actually click on each dimension and hit delete on your keyboard. It will delete it. Now be aware, it will not delete it from the actual model. It just deletes it from that view. If you want to bring it back up, you could either add it manually or you could go back and insert it with the model items option. There is another way where you can actually, there's view and there's hide and show, and let's see here. And I'm not seeing what I'm looking for, but I'll go back to it. But you could actually hide and show these dimensions too if you didn't want to delete them. Just drawing a blank. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at ordinate dimensions. And this, let's go over to this view and say we want some ordinate dimensions on this. So to do that, go underneath Smart Dimension, and we're just going to do a vertical ordinate dimension. Now remember, where you select is the 0. Click and just drag it over. And then every subsequent edge or point, it will go ahead and locate and add an additional digit. Now I'm going to hit the green check, and you'll notice here, like maybe you want to, what they call, move these or dogleg, get a dogleg feature like this automatically created. We actually have the ability to, you can right click on these, and there's break alignment, display options, there's jog, and jog will now give you that, what they call dogleg feature. All right. And remember, any dimension you don't like, you could just simply click on and hit delete, or you could click on, let's say we wanted to make that a inspection dimension. So over here, here's the inspection dimension option. You just click on it. You could add additional notes and centerline information, whatever you want to that. Hit the green check. Let's focus on this right now for a minute. Remember the colors, you have the ability to change these. You could select this edge and change the thickness, just like we did earlier. We could change the color. We'll change it to orange or whatever color you prefer. Click off of it, and now you can see that's orange. But let's say we just highlighted that and we want to go ahead and add a GD&T to it. So you could go to Geometric Tolerance, and you could put in your symbols. There's a library. Let's go with concentricity and put in the tolerance and any other additional information we want. You can then move this over to the right. You can either have it with an arrow or just have it floating, or actually attach it to a dimension if you drop it on a dimension. I'm going to drop it on that edge and click, and then hit escape. And now I missed the edge. It gives me a point, so make sure you get it to the edge if you want the arrow. That's, again, an ANSI standard. Some additional things, let's zoom up here. If we wanted, there's surface finish symbols. You could click on surface finish. You could add different parameters like all around, or over here, JS machining required. You could go ahead and click on an edge. It will automatically go a line to that edge. As well as datums. Let's say we want to drop a datum. Click on datum. You could click on that edge, drag it out. Click on this edge, drag it down, and so forth. So on and so forth, and then hit escape. Weld symbol, if you click on this, I don't have a good example here, there's no welds on this particular thing, but you could see the options you could add for welds. If you just want a fillet weld or bevel or whatever you're looking for, then you just click on where you want to drop that. Okay, as far as notes go, we did take a look earlier at notes. You can click on notes, and you could click to drop where you'd like that note. You could copy and paste notes from Word. You could actually put in an object, an image or a Word document. This is actually just for notes. You could just copy and paste notes this way, and just drop in whatever you prefer. Hit escape. You could even make parametric notes with hyperlinks. So if you double click on this, you actually have the ability to put in a hyperlink along with that. You can put on different layers and such. Now to insert like a Word document, you would go to Insert, and there's Object, and you could insert all sorts of things, Excel spreadsheets, images, documents, whatever you want. You just select it, and it will drop in, and it's truly integrated at that point. Now, when you go to save this, you go to File, Save As, and you have the ability to save it as either a drawing, which would be a SolidWorks native file, or if you want to export it to AutoCAD or DXF for machining purposes and e-drawings. There's a bunch of different options here. Even TIFF and JPEG are supported. And that concludes exercise 6.